Production.
What's good with the Bitfarms gang? Let's take a deep dive into what we're looking at here on Bitfarms. So what we got here is this major zone. I've had this marked out in many of my previous videos. So if you want to go into some deeper detail, check some of those out on Bitfarms. But what we have here is a zone that was a major resistance since May 2022. Okay. Now we're in this zone and it's close to May 2024 and we're retesting it as support. Previous resistance turns into support. And all we're seeing here is just we're getting into that area and we're back testing. We're filling gaps. We're ensuring that demand is essentially rising in this stock. And you can tell because here we have this lower trend line, right? You could look at this in a few different ways now that we're bringing this up. We have this lower trend line here and a potential lower or upper trend line around this range, right? So we could be looking at this channel here on Bitfarms where we get these strong pushes to the upside. Now that this is officially our support, we should look for bullish volume to start coming in and maybe a potential move that could take us up into this range. Now, why I think that's possible is because when we zoom into the daily time frame, this area is being shown as strong demand. Okay, so where do we look for now as resistance is going to come up once again? We could look to this area, 255. This area up here seems to be strong as well. You can mark it out as an entire zone, something like this, from $3 to around $4, right? So that entire zone could be marked out as resistance, right? This area right here, right, the top of this box down here, these are the areas that are going to be potentially acting as resistance. So what can we expect, right? We have this strong move, push from the bottom, like a V correction here, right? We're going to need to create a higher low. So maybe we come and retest this trend line again. Then we come test this resistance and have an action like this towards the upside, right? Where we get some move like that. Something like this could occur where we slowly battle these resistance points before we continue higher, right? Okay, so that's a possibility of something that could happen. That's something we should be paying attention to. Again, it might go a little bit more smooth than that, where this bounce is a bounce that is going to be very strong off the lows, and then we come back into this range, and then we want to retest for a bit and go sideways before we get something like this, right? That's also a possibility. Essentially what I'm saying is it's a bullish environment right now for Bitfarms. There's no bullish divergence on the stock that I see from the RSI compared to price. But when we look at the 21 EMA, we go to the weekly time frame, we're starting to see that we're starting to get closer to it. So another thing we should look for is, are we going to stall at this 21 EMA before we get the push to the upside? And that would again kind of go right, it would coincide with this area as resistance, right? This 255 zone. So again, we come up into this range, potentially go sideways, something like this, and then we get the push. Whoa! Okay, so those are kind of like my eyes here on Bitfarms. I do think that the bullish catalyst here is the narratives are going to flip. Everyone's so impatient on miners. Miners are heavily shorted. Now that we're seeing a bunch of these fees being generated from the new Bitcoin halving to the miners, we're starting to see, I think the narratives are going to flip is what I'm saying. We're going to start to see miners look very good and more attractive, both from like a fundamental and technical perspective. And I think Bitfarms is just one of those names you should probably have on your watch list. So that's just a short little breakdown here, guys. Peace.